Hey, Winston here, and Nick.
And me.
Nick's he's sporting a shirt I
Check it
gave him
out.
this morning, but he didn't iron it, and I don't really understand that, but
I don't iron anything.
do you own iron?
No. Or an ironing table. It would just be my coffee table.
This newer generation. Today we're going to talk about algorithms. So, good job, good job. He's my Vanna White. Most people don't even know who Vanna White is nowadays, huh?
No, now I don't even know what an ironing board is.
So, when I was doing real estate, I was taught by a friend of mine, Rick Mariansky. He taught me to multiply all of my projects when I was doing a really fast deal using an algorithm. This would have been in 2014. That's whenever I met Rick. So in 2014, we figured out here in the city I like to invest in, my algorithm was 0.006. That would be the algorithm I would use. So if I was going to go buy a home, and let's say that home was $200,000, then what I would look at is when I multiplied that by 0.006, I would come up with $1,200. So as I would go through 10 to 20 houses trying to see if there was anything around, I'm looking at new stuff that's come on the market. That would be a quick thing. I would run that algorithm. If it come within those numbers, then I would go look at the house. I would investigate it a little bit further. If it was outside of that, I wouldn't investigate it further. Now, that 0.006 is not a number that everyone can use. It's going to change. You know, I'm in a county called Sumner County. So in Sumner County, I would have to use this algorithm because I was taking into consideration how much I was paying in property taxes. I was taking into consideration my insurance. I was taking into consideration what type of an area it was. You know, is it something I'm gonna hit not foreclosures, but more people I got to evict? What was it? So you look at that, and that algorithm is going to change depending on where you're investing at. It will change. It doesn't stay constant. That was what I was looking at where I was. So if you dissect down 10 different deals and you look at it, you can create your own algorithm on how to come up and figure your pricing. So that was back in 2014. So now as I look at stuff, I'm looking at a $200,000 house today that I bought multiplied by 0.006. Does that work? It does not work. Now this number is basically where you got to be to make, where I would have to be at that time to maybe make about 8% return on investment, okay? So let's just put that up there. You decide what you want your investment profit to be, and you create your algorithm to hit that number. And it just helps you get through it. So today, y'all keep hearing us talk about the 1% rule, okay? 1% was something that a lot of people would use even several years ago, saying, hey, if I can get 1%, I'm investing it, because that's gonna give me a 10% return, 12% return. I'm gonna have a good return on my investment. I'm buying it if I can get 1% out of it. The 1% rule, as we've been talking over the last several months, no longer works. The 1% rule basically is a break-even number. Maybe you can make $100 or $200 return off of it at 8% interest buying a loan or something. You can do it, but it just does not work. So now instead of using 0.006, I'm going to use 0.01%. So I'm going to, I guess I got to take that percent off because it's already a percent. So I'm going to multiply that deal times 0.01 or 1%, and that's going to tell me this is where I got to be. So now if I was going to buy a $200,000 house at 1%, I'm going to want to get $2,000 a month in order to break even. So would you invest on a break-even standpoint?
No, not necessarily. I would have to make sure I'm cash flowing.
Okay.
Because breaking even, that means you're not even getting your 8%. You're relying.
But we are struggling right now to hit 1%.
Right.
So does that mean don't invest?
If you can invest for a very long term, because you're basing it off of your future throw off and appreciation.
Everything is off a long term. Everybody needs to invest according to your situation. We're telling you right now, roughly you got to make 1% of the purchase price, including closing costs and everything else. So your total out of pocket. If you're making 1%, you're gonna break even, or maybe do just a tad bit over break even. Let's say you could make 1%. So at $200,000, 1% is $2,000 a year. That's not much money. And that might be the best that you make now. Can you afford it is the question. Do you have a job that supports you enough where you can afford that, and if you had to pay a little extra, you could pay a little extra on a time that somebody's late on rent? You know, what is your situation? You have to do a self-evaluation on that. Now, there are some deals out there right now because people are not buying. So I think we can buy some property now a little bit cheaper than what we're going to be able to buy when the interest rates change. When are the interest rates going to change?
Hopefully soon. Indefinitely.
We can never go off of hopefully. We don't know when it's going to change, okay? So we have to be able to live with this number. I would love to think that in the next 24 months we will start seeing interest rates drop down a little bit. I would love to see them hit 5% again. I don't know that that's going to happen, nor can I invest my money or suggest you invest your money based off of what the market's going to do. All I'm going to do is I'm going to figure out, can I lock it in? Can I lock my loan in at 8% and keep it locked in so that if interest rates go up to 12%, I'm still okay. And then if interest rates drop, then I can do a refi and pull my money back out of it, or pull some of the money back out of it, but get that lower note and start making better money. It really is our perspective on how we can do it. I don't want people to go out there, and we've done several videos talking about this, I do not want you to go out there and over leverage yourself. There will be opportunity down the road to do it. There will be opportunity to buy more. I think our country's in a little bit of trouble right now, huh?
It's rocky.
You think we'll hit World War III? It's a possibility, all right?
It's 100% possibility.
There's so much garbage going on right now, we don't know what's going to happen. So not knowing what's going to happen, I'm going to tell you, don't put yourself out there too much. Cash is trash. I ain't one for saying hold your money in the bank account, because every dollar our country prints kills that dollar in your pocket. The buying capacity is less. So if we lose 10% ground on our dollar, that means our real estate's going to cost you 10% more money when you go buy it, because that's just how it works. So if this video doesn't give you any advice on what to do, but it stops you from doing something that you might have done, that's a good thing too. When's the best time to buy real estate?
Yesterday.
Or
20 years ago, when I was 3.
But right now, right now we look at it, and now is the best time we got to buy, because I don't think real estate's going to do anything but go up in value. But it's not the time to buy if it stresses you out, if it stretches your budget where you can't make ends meet. When do people? I mean, you get into the middle of a market crash and everything goes down, people are committing suicide and stuff like that because of the stress or the burden that they put themselves in. Don't put yourself in that kind of position. Don't do it. And I think that if I had money in a money market account, I would move it into real estate before I would leave it in there right there, because I don't trust the market. But I can't tell people what to do. You got to make your own decisions on what you're thinking. You still looking, right? You're still looking at some real estate, trying to buy something? Yeah,
it's a hunt. It's what it is. I mean, if this doesn't work at the 1%, you move on and you find one that does work. And then if you can really like and deal with that 8% interest, and you can still break even, and you can deal with that, then you can go in and get it. And if you never refinance in 30 years, that's what you signed up for.
So this weekend I went and met with somebody wanting to sell a piece of property. Mm-hmm. And he wants to sell 1 acre of his land. And he said, I need $25,000. And I think $25,000, maybe he told me $20,000. I don't know if he told me 20 or 25. But I think that's a little bit cheap. But he hasn't done his engineering for it yet. He hasn't done his surveys yet. So I told him, from my perspective, because I know this guy needs money and he's hurting, I have the opportunity right there that I can drive it in. But that's not who I am, and that's not what I do. So I think the price of the land is probably off by, $8,000 of what he ought to be getting off of that piece of land. And I told him, I said, I will buy the land, I will pay all the closing costs, I will pay for all of the engineering. So I got to hire a civil engineer to come in there and survey it off and break that acre of land off of it. That's probably going to cost me about $8,000 before it's all said and done. I probably got to do a minor subdivision overlay when I do that to be able to break it down lower than what that area is going to allow us to break it down. So there's a little bit of stuff that's coming in it. So I'm going to go out there and I'm going to pay all that right there, so it'll be fair. So I'm going to probably be buying land between $30,000 and $35,000 for an acre, which it's a good price. It's not cheating anybody out of money, but I think right now it helps get this guy out of a bind. He's not losing his home. I'm just going to take 1 acre of his property. And
is it viable land? Can you build on it?
I can build on it. It's gonna take a minute to make some stuff happen with it, but we can build on it. So I may spend $35,000 today and not be able to build. It may take me a year to get it where I can build on it. So I'm gonna sit on that for a year and do that, which is cool.
Yeah, sitting on land is a lot easier than sitting on a fully built house.
Well, sitting on the land is, you talking about a house that you could rent?
Right.
No. So we did a video about a friend of mine that had some property, and he's done a land development deal on it, and he wants to build it, but he's looking at the economy, and it's stressing him out to know that land is costing him money every month. And he's looking at what's going on in our government, what's going on in other countries, and stressing out a little bit, saying, I don't want to sit on this right here and wind up not being able to do anything for 5 more years, and all this money's tied up in this piece of land.
Okay.
So he decided that he would sell that piece of land to be able to come in and go buy something else that can make him cash flow immediately.
Gotcha.
So buying a piece of property is good, but if it's you're sitting on it for a couple of years, because for him to develop, it's going to be $1.5 million probably to develop what he wants to do.
Whoa.
Not that he can't do that, because he can, but not knowing what the economy is doing puts a little bit more stress on you when you're doing it. So let's talk about me. So we're sitting on a lot of raw land real estate. So I bought 2 neighborhoods last year. We talked about that. And both neighborhoods I bought had deferred maintenance on them. So with both of those neighborhoods having the deferred maintenance on them, we had to put a ton of money into it. Well, the one neighborhood I bought, and I was able to buy it and assume the loan. So I assumed a 40-year note at 4% interest.
How did you get 40 years?
That's what it was financed for.
Wow.
I didn't finance it. I just assumed it. There's like
Okay.
There's like 30 years or so left on that 40-year note.
Gotcha.
But the note on the houses is $7,000 a month.
Whoa.
On 41 houses. Now I had to put down, I think I put $1.2 million down on the deal, and then there was some other money tied to it that has some forgivable debt on it that they forgive $323,000 a year of the debt on it. So ultimately, that's a great deal, great cash flow. It takes care of its rehab to a certain degree, but I've still had to come out of pocket every single month since last July on that neighborhood to get everything where it needed to be, because it was so far out of whack.
Rehab.
Now, the problem was I had all the money to do that, but then I had a second neighborhood came up that I could buy. And this neighborhood was built, the first neighborhood was built in 2011 to 2013. This neighborhood was built in 2006. So it had deferred maintenance on it, almost 20 years of deferred maintenance on it, and a lot of maintenance. So I couldn't pass the neighborhood up because it was a great deal. So I bought the neighborhood, and it had all of my cash reserves went into that second neighborhood to get it closed, because I had to come up with
all of that
40% down payment. So it took all my cash. So basically we put that in it. In this neighborhood, we knew we was going to have a lot of money to put into it. So when we closed on this neighborhood, we have been pumping probably $100,000 a month. $150,000 a month between the 2 neighborhoods. We've hit as much as $200,000 on some of the months as we've been doing this. That burns through a lot of money. That puts a lot of stress on us. And we've been able to do it. So we've been able to cash flow, and we did some cash out refis on a couple of pieces of property, pull some extra money out. And we're still not heavily leveraged. But a few weeks ago, I'm talking to Christina, and I'm like, we have stretched ourselves out, and we have stressed ourselves out on rehabbing these neighborhoods. They're almost all done. They're not quite done yet. But why are we stressing ourselves out on that when we're sitting on all this land? We probably got close to $10 million in land, and all of the land is paid off. I don't owe any money on any of it. So that land, it costs me money every year to own it, in property taxes and upkeep. A lot of it is in the city limits, so I got to mow it. I got to keep it cut. I got to keep it up.
Right.
And as you look at that, you say, I'm 55. I'm probably not going to develop all that land. And we had a video we talked about earlier where we talked about everybody thinks that now's the time. I got this perfect deal. It's never going to replicate itself.
Right.
So me and my wife were looking at that and saying, we can replicate this anytime. We can always sell it and buy another piece of land. So we decided that we would sell probably about $3 million worth of our land. And I might wind up selling it all, because I would rather sell it and put that money into something that makes me money right now rather than wait.
Right, because that's equity that's not being used.
How much am I losing? I mean, the land is going up good in value. I got one piece of land I paid $114,000 for that probably will go for better than $3 to $4 million. Whoa. When I sell it, and I haven't had it that long, but it'll be a great return because it's right off of an interstate. But we always are evaluating everything that we do. If I got money sitting in land over here, and that land will take some stress off of my wife. My wife works her behind off. She's a 70-hour-a-week woman. And it's crazy. My life is a whole lot easier than it used to be. I can be here or not be here. It really doesn't affect anything. But if she's not here because she's running everything on the accounting side, everything on the office side, I don't do any of that. I go out find deals, and I'm more of an acquisition guy. So she does.
He does the fun stuff.
I do the fun.
She does the hard stuff.
That is absolutely true. That's absolutely true. And that is what's necessary. That sacrifice that
teamwork
that I did in the beginning like that. It was me doing the rehabs, me doing the work myself, me doing everything that we had to do to get it done. I was doing the accounting stuff before her and I got together. And then now she does all of that. And, you know, I want to get her back by my side doing the fun stuff with me. And if that requires me to sell a couple pieces of property to increase our cash flow, because if I sold all that property, I would probably increase my cash flow. If I reinvested into real estate properties, I would probably give myself another $50,000 a month, if not more, every single month, just in positive cash flow.
Yeah, because that equity is now actually being leveraged correctly, and you're making money off of it.
So we're losing at least $600,000 worth of cash money in our pocket every year by sitting on that real estate, plus appreciation, depreciation, principal reduction off of anything I bought with that money. So we're looking at that now. So it's again, constant evaluation of what we do to do better.
Because everything's changing and fluctuating. We've got to just adapt.
So appreciate you watching the video, and hopefully we was all over the board. But that's good.
Yeah, that's fine.
Good. That's good.
Make sure you're 1% is
make
good.
sure you're at 1% right now. Dissect that down. Do not take that 1% as that's God's law. That's not. You got to take that 1% and you got to figure out what area you live in. If you live in a really high taxable area, let's say you live in California, 1% probably not going to cash flow you. No, I'm not going to say probably, it's not cash flowing you, period. You know, it's just not. Your tax rates are too high. You got to look at that. So you have to do the numbers. You have to figure out what that algorithm is that you can use to figure out the property where you want to invest. That's just an easy rule. You're going to run your numbers regardless. You're never not going to run your numbers. So when it all comes down to you fixing to stroke your signature on that dotted line when you buy a piece of property, you will have wanted to take into consideration every single cost affiliated with that piece of property and understand what your numbers truly are. Thank you for watching. Have a great day.